Hi everyone, this is Prachi. I work with the Carilion Clinic innovation team. I lead the invention development arm. Aileen Helsel has joined us as well, and we'll get into some introductions in a bit. A little bit about myself. My academic background is in bioengineering. Prior to joining Carilion, I worked with NIH Clinical and Translational Science Institute in Pittsburgh. And I joined Carilion in January 2020. And it's been a very exciting journey. And I'm looking forward to sharing some of my journey here at Carilion with everyone on the webinar today. A quick agenda. I'll give a brief introduction about Carilion Clinic and our Carilion Clinic Innovation, our team, and then we'll dive into Invention Development Arm to discuss the core methodologies that we follow, the resources that we have here, our proof of concept program, and then I'll discuss two project use cases to give some more context. And again, if anyone has questions, please type it in the chat or let me know if you'd like to be unmuted. So Carilion Clinic, we're headquartered in Roanoke, Virginia. We have a comprehensive network of hospitals, primary and specialty physician practices, and you can see the stats, the 732 physicians, 80 plus specialties, and we provide care for nearly 1 million Virginians and West Virginians. Our enduring commitment is to a healthier region. And with Virginia Tech, we also have the Virginia Tech Carilion School of Medicine. Carilion is clinic innovation, briefly CCI. Our vision is to improve the health of our community through innovation and regional economic development. Our goals to meet this vision are to build a thriving innovation ecosystem within Carilion and within the region to have a broader impact. So how our goals and vision are translated is through the innovative people at Carilion Clinic. So our physicians, nurses, staff, they come up with unique discoveries and inventions in the while providing day-to-day care and everything that they do for our community. A set of these innovations have commercial potentials that will not just impact our patients, but if they're applied broadly and brought to market by commercialization, then they'll have a broader impact globally. Carilion CCI is a catalytic agent and resource for our innovators to move these innovations forward. And as you can see in the grid, we focus on inventions that have high commercial potential and also have a great impact that can improve the care that we provide to our community. Here's our team. You can see some beautiful pictures. So Troy Kieser, Innovation Director, he joined prior to joining Carilion. He was in Boston. He worked with Brigham and Women's Hospital and Harvard Medical Teaching Hospitals. Dr. Hessel, that you can see here, she's the licensing manager. She leads the commercialization arm at CCI. Her background is in biosciences, and prior to joining Carilion, she led commercialization for the Washington State University. So how we work together is I lead the invention development arm and Dr. Hassel leads the commercialization arm. So when we get inventions or when an invention is disclosed, it can take several paths. Some are already ready for the industry to be marketed, to be licensed, or to be spun out as startups. And some inventions need some more development. They do have commercial potential, but they need more development to be able to translate into that market ready bucket. So that's the bridge where my work exists and where the invention development arm exists. And so we'll dive into broader philosophies that we follow for our invention development arm. So human-centered design, lean startup, and agile management. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with these terms or these frameworks, but human-centered design, we work on problem definition and understanding the approach, developing empathy for users, for community, for the problem itself, and identify the right problem to solve. We have it be needs driven and focused on the end user. Sometimes it may happen that we receive invention disclosures that are in an early stage. They're trying to solve the problem. But they haven't asked if you're familiar with the 5 whys, like why does this happen? Are we solving the consequence of something that is happening, or are we solving the root cause of that problem? So finding that problem market fit is where we apply the human-centered design principles. And then the broad umbrella of lean startup, fail fast, learn quickly. So we follow that approach, and we make small increments, or through agile management, we'll plan sprints for projects or for inventions on how can we mitigate risk, how do we have a plan that eliminates big risks, helps us decide whether we need to make a go no go decision on a project. So we use these 3 frameworks to move forward. Invention development resources. So a lot of projects that come to us are in the concept stage, or back of the napkins sketch stage. So we've developed a suite of resources to help our innovators move forward and basically overcome that valley of death that exists between an idea and getting a prototype ready, or getting something ready to be marketed to the industry, or finding collaborators to do further development, or even finding that larger chunk of funding which needs something to show, a prototype to show, to get there. So we have rapid prototyping capabilities, we have 3D printers, we have our CAD software licenses through Onshape, and we have internal engineering experts available throughout the year for our inventors to do that initial brainstorming, ideation, prototyping, and get something physical to show. Along with that, we have the Carilion Clinic Center for Simulation, Research and Patient Safety, SIM Center for short. It's a 13,000 square foot facility for clinical simulation. It is an amazing space with all different types of capabilities that can be used to simulate products, prototypes, ideas, and have that access to a healthcare system and what the setting could look like. Along with that, we have an amazing human factors team who helps us think through that user, how the user thinks about the product, how the user will use the product. And you might have heard that people, I'm forgetting the quote, but what people say and what they do and what they think they do are totally different things. So that's what the human factors team helps us with. And then a lot of our clinicians, they have great ideas and they have amazing clinical expertise, but they may need to collaborate with industry, academic partners, whether it's engineering or industrial design or several other specialities, to have an end product and to have a cross-functional team that can implement that end product. So that's where we also provide great value by making those connections, helping them connect, build that relationship, so that they can move forward. The proof of concept program, this is one of our important resources that we provide for Carilion innovators. Proof of concept program provides funding and project management for early stage projects with high potential for commercialization. The goal of POCP is to facilitate development and de-risking of ideas and prototypes to enable the invention to reach to the next phase of commercialization. Now, that next phase of commercialization could be different things. It could be that the invention is ready to be licensed and ready to be marketed. It could be that it is ready for an SBIR or STTR or a larger grant that they could go for. Or it could be that they get ready for, they have a product that is ready for clinical trials. So there are several different phases of commercialization that the inventions can graduate to from the POCP program. And like I said briefly, but we do provide agile project management. We provide milestone-based funding for invention development ranging from 5K to 50K based on what the project needs. Collaborations and stakeholder management. So if the inventor or the project is collaborating with an academic partner or industry, we take, through the POCP program, we take care of setting up the agreements, the NDAs, facilitating the relationship and everything that needs to happen for two parties to work together successfully. And then we also provide iterative invention assessments. So at every stage of the project plan, maybe it depends on the project plan, but we define stages where we assess the invention again and again to develop a strategy that is most efficient for the funding that is being provided. And the invention assessment can range everything from is the product development pathway that we've decided making sense after 2 months? Should we be doing the same thing? Has the market changed? Has the stakeholder perception changed? Is there anything that we can do better? So we cover all of those things within the invention assessment. Sorry, I was having a tough time switching to the next slide. So in 2021, we're working with 12 departments and multiple projects within the invention development portfolio. Especially nursing, we've seen that our nurses are very innovative and they come up with actually the best ideas. And all of these projects where the engagement on each project varies based on what the project needs. Some of these projects might also be that they're not in the POCP program and they don't have that level of funding, but we're still working with them on their development pathway and assisting as they're working on their project. And then some of these were highly engaged. It's like we're almost meeting twice a week or thrice a week, and we're working through a project plan, we're working through prototyping, we're working through bringing them into that licensing bucket. So the engagement differs on each project. But we're looking to expand and involve as many departments as we can once we go forward. So I have 2 use cases, and both of these use cases are very high level and non-confidential version, but I wanted to give everyone a flavor of what we're working on. So this project has been closed out, but as you can see, in a few weeks, we could do so much with this project. So we got an idea to have a novel IV pole, because transferring medications on the traditional IV poles is difficult when patients are being transferred from an air ambulance to a land ambulance, and then from that ambulance into the emergency department or the critical care medicine department, and then transferring medications through each cycle. So it's very cumbersome. So we did get an idea for developing something that makes this process easier. So from there, came up with a sketch. We did some prototyping using the CAD modeling and 3D printing. We did simulation testing at the sim center to see how it would work in the hospital setting, how it would work in the ambulance setting. And then we did the user testing at the air ambulance base with the lifeguard team. And we did, so with this design, we found out that it did not improve efficiencies enough to justify the adoption of a new technology. So we closed out this project. The problem still exists, but there might be a better way to address that problem, and now we're working on that. But at least this design iteration of whether this design works or not, we could close it out in a very short time, saving us a lot of time, so that we can now focus on, okay, what's next. And this was all possible with the resources that we've developed and the ideologies that we're following for the invention development arm. And the next one, this one is high level as well. It's a smart oxygen monitoring and delivery system. It has high commercial potential. Basically, the system is to assess patients' oxygen needs to deliver personalized supplemental oxygen delivery based on what the patient needs. So we got that idea. We worked with the inventor on developing a product profile. We found an engineering collaborator for our clinical inventor, and they worked together on building several solution design concepts. And we could do feasibility and simulation testing all under 5K to see how those design concepts are working. And now where we are, we have 3 contenders of these solution design concepts, and we awarded the larger award, the proof of concept award, for this project to test out in the first 2 months these 3 concepts, and what would work, what wouldn't work, and then finalize on one concept that they can build a prototype for in 6 to 8 months. Once we'll have the prototype, and it'll be ready to move into the licensing bucket. So that's where all of our resources have been incredibly valuable as well. And so, yeah, that's it from me. And thank you so much for listening, and I'm open to questions. Okay, I see a question here, how to apply for the funding source. So the proof of concept program funding, one of the prerequisites for this funding is that you need to have one Carilion Clinic employee or one Carilion Clinic lead inventor on the project. And if that's the case, please reach out to me. You can see my email address here, prjoshi@carilionclinic.org, and we can discuss the forward path. I see a question here. How does your team evaluate commercial viability? So once we get the invention disclosure, we actually work with an excellent network of consultants who have varied expertise in different areas, and they're involved with the industry, and they're involved with the medical devices or software as a medical device market. And so we do an internal assessment first, and then we work with these consultants to do an in-depth assessment covering various covering various sectors such as competitive analysis, technology readiness, commercialization potential, doing market research, talking to the industry partners, getting feedback of whether this will be of interest to the industry or not. So we do an in-depth assessment to assess commercial viability. I hope that answers the questions, but if not, feel free to ask more questions. Do you accept research funding related to naturopathy? We haven't invested a lot yet into alternative medicine, but I understand that it's a very interesting field, and a lot of developments are happening in the alternative medicine field. So we'd be open to it. And like I said, we can do an assessment on what the idea is and if there is commercial potential there. And if there is, then we can definitely think about what we can do. Of course. I see another question. Of the bodies of medicine, of the bodies of medicine listed earlier, are there specific targets the invention development arm is pursuant of? My answer to that would be not yet. But we're working with all of these different departments to identify if there could be a center of excellence that we can build and we can focus on. So right now we're in an exploratory stage where we're open to different ideas. Was there any specific department or body of medicine that you were thinking of? Cool. But that's a great question. We've been thinking about it for quite some time now. I'm open to any other questions you may have. Do you plan on addressing medical innovations that require significant clinical trial timelines? If so, how do you manage the commercial potential of those projects? Right. That's a great question, actually. And so, what we try to do is through the proof of concept program, have an initial prototype or a proof of concept that can be marketed to the industry. And what we try to do is bring an industry partner to co-sponsor or sponsor the clinical trial agreement. And Troy and Aileen would be the best people to answer this. But once we get the industry partner into an agreement to sponsor the clinical trial, we can set up something like an exclusive license agreement that if the clinical trials were to be successful, then the industry partner can receive that first dibs or the first right to the invention. And so that reduces the risk and still it keeps the commercialization area and opportunity open. Troy and Aileen, please feel free to add anything that I may have missed. Has that been implemented yet, or is that just a notional model right now? Meaning, has it been successful? I'll let Troy take that one because I know he has something exciting to say about it. Maybe he might have some audio issues, but so we haven't done a patient clinical trial as far as I know, but we've implemented it with the human factors team and other teams where we've brought an industry partner in to do to fund that research through the human factors arm. How are the industry partners identified? Is there any sort of regional or proximity preference? I think, of course, there's a focus on community development and regional development. So that would be like a feather in the cap if the industry partner is regional. But if not, then we'll still focus on having the best commercialization pathway and what's best for the technology. Does the research has to be conducted within Carilion or else? Um, the research can be so like I said, one of the lead inventors has to be a Carilion Clinic employee, but the research can be off Carilion site or off campus. And we figure out those details once we reach to, that agreement phase or something concrete happening. Thanks, Troy, for taking that question. How are your researchers incentivized? Yes, correct. They do benefit via rev share, and which is under Carillion's IP policy. Still open to taking more questions. And also, if someone would like to be unmuted, let me know. What is the split at Carilion between the inventive team and the institution? Um, I think we happy to discuss the IP policy more, but I would say that Carilion has a very generous split for the inventive team when compared to other institutions. For those of us in the region that have commercialization and or technical experience in the medtech space and would like to help, how do we engage? Um, Please reach out to me or Troy or Aileen. My email is here. And I think we're also developing a suite of resources for our inventors to go to, for especially our clinical inventors that don't have that technical or engineering experience. And we're right now working with academic partners like Virginia Tech, and then quite a few design firms and other institutions. So I would love to connect you to our inventors and find out where there's a fit, where there could be a match, where you can form a successful team to move these products or ideas to market. And to add to that, if an external institution is participating with Carilion or with Carillion's inventors or team, we do work on establishing a relationship where both parties benefit fairly if something was to be commercialized. For a non-Carilion employee, would you accept the application? If there's a Carilion lead inventor on the application, then yes. But if it's only non-Carilion team, then these funds won't be applicable. Any other questions? Okay, then. Thank you everyone for joining today and listening to the presentation. Please reach out to me even after the webinar if you have questions or if you'd like to connect or just have a chat. Open to all of those things. Thank you so much.